Democrats potentially losing control of Congress could lead to a potential peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. I'll unpack that in just a moment. But first off, let me start by saying I'm not a fanboy of Putin, but nor am I one of Zelensky. I feel sympathy for the people of both Ukraine and Russia who are caught in the middle of this conflict. However, when I look at the world scene, I don't see Russia as the greatest threat, as told by our corporate media and our politicians. I see China as a greater threat. Why? Well, China's regime, their government, has no reservations crushing their own people, and this is exactly what they want to do to the world. They want to dominate it. They will steal intellectual property, they will unleash plagues upon the world, and given the fact that we depend on them for products, materials, and resources and services, we are beholden to some degree to these people who at a whim can cut us off from these things. So to me, they are a great threat. Another threatening group to me is the World Economic Forum, the Davos crowd. These elitists want one world rule. They want to run the show. They don't believe you have individual rights. You're part of a collective, a Borg, so to speak, and you will do what they want, when they want, at their whim. So to me, they are a greater threat. I also see the climate hysterics who are pushing us towards the brink of basically living back in the dark ages again. These folks who do not apply any science or common sense, who are only driven by fear, emotions, and whatever the hell else drives them, to me are a great threat. Another group, of course, the last group, is this group that are the basically the wokesters, these people that have deconstructionism, this theory that they want to implement, whatever type it is. Basically, these folks are eating up the West from the inside out. That self-destructive ideology is destroying Western nations throughout all Western nations basically, and it is a cancer that's permeating throughout. So to me, all of them are greater threats than Russia. I don't see Russia coming over to Canada, United States, or any Western out towards here and invading anytime soon. What I see Putin doing is basically trying to reinforce his borders, try to maybe enhance some additional territory, because he wants to keep all of this ideology out of his nation. Rightly or wrongly, he's the leader of that nation. Anyway, now that we've had a couple of days to take stock of what's happened in the US midterms, I wanted to draw your attention to what impact that may have on Ukraine. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, what difference does it make on Ukraine what happens in the United States midterms? Well, given that the Democrats appear to, at this point, be losing Congress, aka the House, it means that now Ukrainian money laundering may come to an end. Of course, this will not be welcome news to those that support the response of the Zelensky government to Russia's offensive, especially to those that were all in on the premise that no peace deal would be acceptable unless it included complete Russian surrender and an agreement to pay for Ukraine's infrastructure. Now, given that Congress controls the purse strings and the fact that a fair amount of these newly minted Republican congressmen and women aren't of the uniparty ilk, continuing funding of a war or paying for Ukraine's broken infrastructure isn't likely to be met with a lot of enthusiasm, especially since Zelensky and company rejected all its early chances to make peace with Russia. It was, after all, Ukraine's choice to fight Russia to the death. Given the ticket these new breed of Republicans ran on, there's little chance they'll be offering any rational reason to their voters as to why U.S. taxpayers should have to pay another dime for Ukraine's war. In fact, given that the Europeans did little to divert this tragedy at every opportunity, Congress will likely suggest the EU foot the bill. Now, I have a novel idea. Once the EU gets a refund from Pfizer for all the pharmaceutical interventions that they paid for, which were sold under false pretenses, they could just give that money to Zelensky in Ukraine. Now, while we could say the Europeans did little to be the voice of reason when it came to diffusing the situation, Joe Biden and his administration, could be said, poured gasoline on the fire every step of the way. Now, the Three Stooges could have likely done a better job of international diplomacy than Joe and his gang. Now, whether it was deliberate or ineptitude or a combination of both, I'll leave that for you to decide. Now, of course, if Ukraine supporters and advocates can make a clear argument and demonstrate that the US is somehow responsible for the war by instigating Russia. So what could an example of that be? Well, for example, let's say that the US was building illegal biolabs over there, which offended Russia and that pushed them towards doing what they did. That would certainly put the US on the hook now, wouldn't it? Given, though, that the Biden administration has been denying that fact for over a year now, there's probably little chance of that happening right now. Now, you see, elections do have consequences, some readily visible at first, and others not so much. But consequences they do. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed, do so, and check out some of the past videos. I'll see you next time.